Welcome to the Liquidity Event, a show about all things personal finance with a laser focus on taxes, financial independence, and equity compensation. Hosted by AJ and Shane of Brooklyn FI, each episode will focus on a personal finance topic, some driven by news headlines and sometimes driven by listener questions. And sometimes you'll just get two money nerds rambling about what they think is interesting. Just a quick note before we get started, this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered tax or investment advice.
Hello, and welcome to the Liquidity Event. I'm your host, AJ Ayers, and Shane is showing us his green screen.
I saw the record button pop on. Yeah, I got a green screen for Gemifi demos, so to make it like I'm floating and stuff.
Like
I've
floating in the ether of equity comp.
Equity comp advice, yeah. Do we start?
All right, let's try it again.
I'm down to just start.
Okay. One more time. Hello, and welcome to the Liquidity Event. I am your host, AJ Ayers.
And I'm Shane Mason.
And this is episode 189, being recorded on May 13th, airing on May 14th. You can email us your finance questions at liquidityevent@brokerage's.com, and we will answer them live on the air, or you can just post them on Reddit. Today on the show, we are talking about Mamdani's New York, the SEC proposal for semi-annual instead of quarterly reporting, a Reddit question about having brokerage accounts at different custodians, and how ChatGPT did as a portfolio manager. How are you today, Mr. Shane Mason?
I'm great. Yeah, really good. Still working on these renovations, but we're almost there. We're getting ready for a retreat next week in New York, so I will be in the States for the first time in some time. Well, that's not true. For a long period of time.
I saw you last weekend.
Yeah, shit. My bad. Yeah, but I'm going to be in the States for 2 weeks straight, which is cool. New York for our retreat, which I'm excited to see all of our employees, old and new. And then we're launching Gemifi in San Francisco the week after that. So you and I are going to be hanging out for almost 2 weeks straight. So, dear listener, if one of us arrives dead on the podcast in 3 weeks, you know why.
You know where to find Shane, in my backyard.
And Paul, she's going to weekend at Bernie's my body in Delta One to her Palm Springs house and then bury it in the desert a la Epstein.
Speaking of Palm Springs, I am actually in Palm Springs, and I have a late-breaking article to share with you.
Oh, great.
It's actually not late-breaking. I just learned about it last night. We've talked about blue zones on this podcast before, as you and I are curious about the longevity movement. We are longevity curious,
we're
one
immortal,
might say.
immortal curious.
Yeah, immortal curious. We flirt with Mount Olympus. So I was with a friend of mine last night, and she was like, have you heard about the Palm Springs Tourist Board's campaign to get Palm Springs added to the Blue Zone list? So from this guy's book and documentary, now there's like this whole movement to like make cities more like Blue Zones, meaning like have more public spaces where people can do, have access to fresh produce and walk around and play pickleball and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, Palm Springs is literally a retirement community, mostly made up of gay men who are already very conscious about their health. Like, what? This isn't a blue zone? This is just a retirement community for rich people. Like, what are we doing?
It's giving 0% GDP growth.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but they're like Ramon Park, which is just like the park downtown, like opens as first blue zone approved community center, and it's like, they added 2 pickleball courts, which are packed, by the way. If you play pickleball, like Palm Springs, there's like a whole scene here. I'm not in the pickleball scene, so yet, obviously, with my new fabulous Brooklyn FI bucket hat, I am one step closer towards realizing my true full potential as a 75-year-old retired man.
The older you get, you got to be super young or super old to wear a bucket hat, or have
Ethan Burroff,
or a trillion tattoos. There's a theory that a friend posed to me one time that hats only reduce your cool, so you have to be very cool to begin with. So like Michael Jackson can wear like a fedora, and it's like still cool, which he famously did. If I wore a fedora, we all know how that would go. So you are trending towards, and being old is cool, and being very young is cool as well. So being in the delicate, you get across the chasm, so to speak. All I do is read business books these days. So yeah. Being bald is also very cool for bucket hat wearing.
Yeah, Die with Zero hair. The John Owens memoir.
I just bought my boy. As you know, my love language is gifts. I was on the Delta app, and I've bought you many things, so I didn't buy you this one, but I bought my buddy who's bald the Delta bucket hat, and it looks fucking sick on him. I gotta say, shout out to Matthew or Michael Altman. Anyway,
I would say your friend. I know you're speaking of. That is a man who looks good in a bucket hat.
Great in a bucket hat.
The Delta Airlines has launched they were like a big sponsor of the Masters golf tournament. Mm-hmm. So every Delta lounge has like mannequins wearing like the Delta golf outfits. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I have joked for years that I should be involved in Delta because I know I am their target customer. Mm-hmm. This golf collection, 0 out of 10 stars. It is ugly, poorly made. Is not appealing to men or women. I was actually texting with our buddy Michael, one of our friends of the firm, and he was like, have you seen this golf collection? I was like, I was literally in JFK fight. We missed each other by like 5 minutes. We were in different Delta lounges talking shit about the Delta golf collection. So yeah, I have not made any purchases, and had it been a little bit cute, I would have dropped way too much money on that whole collection. Anyway.
You've come so far from your 3 roommates in Williamsburg, AJ. These champagne problems you complain about on your podcast.
Please. I did not live in Williamsburg. I lived in East Williamsburg, which is now known as Bushwick. But back in the day, it was East Williamsburg.
Never lived in Bushwick. Don't even try. I'll take East Williamsburg, but you never lived in Bushwick. Don't you come at me with that.
Speaking of living in Bushwick, the SEC unveils proposal to allow semi-annual reporting.
Not your best segue.
Just like the, I don't know how to segue that one. A little background here. Public companies, because they're publicly traded, and any shareholder who owns stock in that company owns some of the equity in that company. So therefore, they got to know what's going on, right? You and I are shareholders of Brooklyn FI. We are provided with the finances of Brooklyn FI more often than quarterly because we need to make decisions. But if anyone became a shareholder of Brooklyn FI, they would also get the finances. So we get at least quarterly reports, right? Now there's this proposal by our current sitting president to make this semi-annual, so 2 less quarters of important financial disclosures. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, as a former auditor on a quarterly basis of public companies, it's interesting. It'll definitely cut down on jobs for auditors, for sure. Which
accountants,
I think is a good thing, frankly. Like, we got a lot of really smart people spending a lot of time auditing financial statements. I do think that's a good thing for society in terms of freeing up the talent. I think it is a bad thing for investors, frankly, because you're going to have 50% as much disclosures. Only one of those disclosures is going to be a full annual financial, like a full annual audit, and the other one's just semi-annual. So you're just going to have half as much information to guide your investment decisions, which is unfortunate. It is good for corporations because auditors get paid, especially for public corporations, quite a lot of money. They're very expensive, and it's a big bill on the P&L for these public companies. So it trends with this administration's push towards benefiting corporations and minimizing investor confidence. Your day-to-day retail investor is going to have less to go on. Your hedge fund managers already have people analyzing these companies on a day-to-day basis. So that's my take on what's going on with this.
I've got a red hot flamin' liquidity event take on this one.
Let's go.
You ready?
Yep.
So one of the things that our client base faces is as they grow their careers, they get into positions of leadership at these companies. And these companies are private and then they go public, or they're already public. And that means that if you are an employee of these companies and part of your compensation is in stock, aka equity compensation, if you have access to material non-public information, meaning information about the company that has not been publicly released, you are actually not allowed to trade that stock. It's these super complex, this is insider trading, folks, right? So if you are, in the marketing department and you know about a new you've been designing the new product feature for Spotify, you know about it 2 years before the public does. So you can't trade that stock. You often will get put on a list that says, hey, you can't trade this stock because you have information that the public doesn't have. So my fear with getting less frequent reports is that there's going to be unnecessary further handcuffs and further restrictions on not just executives. I'm not just talking about the CFO and the CEO, but your rank and file employees who are going to have to wait another 6 months to do their trades. So that's the bad news. The good news is that potentially we will start to see the expansion of what these things called 10b5-1 plans, which are the idea that you have to submit your trades at least, I forget the rules, I'm rusty on this, but I think it's you have to submit the previous quarter, so before the board meets to approve the trades. So right now this happens quarterly, which is great, but if we have less time to do it, maybe more people will be forced onto these plans, which is a positive because they're going to get that slow drip diversification, which is what we want. So this is very interesting to me as exactly as it relates to our clients and what we talk about on this here podcast.
That's a really good point. I hadn't considered it's not only 50% as many disclosures, but it's also 50% as many trading windows available to our clients. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So people are going to be when what company was it that went public? Figma went public, and then there was a 6-month lockup, and they went from $100 a share to $10 a share or something crazy like that over the dirt in the blackout period. Woo! So you're going to have a lot of clients that, or customers, or investors, or employees with equity compensation that are just going to be handcuffed and won't be able to trade and exit without, like you said, a 10b5-1 plan. So we're going to see a lot of expansion and probably a lot of software, a lot of vibe coded 10b5-1 softwares. Not that I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. And not only that, yes. Shout out to Gemifi, which we also have to talk about. But before we talk about Gemifi, just this idea that, hey, there's already concern in markets about these big public companies when there's a trading window opens and all these employees are trading. Like when Elon Musk decides to trade, like he can move the market. When Jeff Bezos decides to trade, he can move the market, but he can only do it during certain windows on a 10b5-1 plan. Well, what if instead of 4 times a year, they only get to do it twice a year? Now we have these extremely rocky trading days that happen twice a year instead of 4 times a year. Just to me, it's like it's too much of a pressure valve with price, and that's an opportunity for price manipulation, which seems to be what this administration likes to do. I do want to talk about Gemifi, though. Mm-hmm. Because this is what we do in Gemifi is we build 10B. That's the whole reason we built the software. We've spent 7 years basically building a very sophisticated analysis on when and how you should sell your stock and how much tax you're going to pay. And so we started with this idea of what should a 10b5-1 plan look like, and could we create it? Could we create it and manipulate it real time and understand the real life tax consequences? So we're launching it. You said what next? Not next week. Next week's retreat, week after at FPA NorCal.
Essentially Memorial Day. Memorial Day this year is when it's going live. So yeah, about 2 weeks from now. So very excited. Yeah. So yeah, the 10b5-1 plan is it's actually just a feature now of the 10 to 15 features within the platform. We've got trading plan buildings. You can build trading plans either manually, drag and drop functionality, or you can have an algo automatically generate one for you. We've got multiple tax scenario builders within them. So it's kind of like a Holistiplan style where you say this amount of wages, that amount of interest, this amount of state stuff. And you can override credits. You can import, AI import grants, single source of truth, of course. Expiration watch notifications for you and clients. I mean, I can go on and on. But yeah, the 10b5-1 is going to be a really important part. You can build the plans that are tax aware. AJ, one of the coolest things we just added, we've been adding the tax engine for like months or for years and months. But finally, when you trigger a trade, it tells you the tax before and after and shows you the exact delta and the tax rate of every trade that you propose to yourself. And then once you've built all those trades into the plan, you can just hit convert to 10b5-1, submit it to your employer, and then you can even cancel them, right? You're like, hey, this no longer works. The trading plan or the price is different. We got to build another one new very quickly. You can't do that in Excel. You need to do that in a software platform with a database attached to it. So yeah, really excited to move this. Thanks for the plug. Excited to demo all of this stuff with potential customers in San Francisco at FPA NorCal in 2 weeks alongside you. Bring the bucket hat, AJ.
I know. I'm definitely gonna bring the bucket hat. I will be fully decked out in BKFi/Gemifi merch. This is a new territory for us. Well, I guess have you ever worked a booth in a conference before?
When I was with Intuit, I did work a booth. Yeah, that was funny. They all thought I worked at Intuit, and then I was like, no, I'm just an accountant like you are. And they were like, you could see their faces twist up. And like that, but yeah, it is funny to be like just standing there watching people roam around and then like engage them or they engage you. A lot of people just like to complain, honestly. For a big old company like Intuit, they just come to share their complaints, which is less fun than like a young new product. I imagine that we're going to be selling and hawking and touting in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I conference. I had a great time at NAPFA last week, and excited for
Yeah.
FPA.
Tell me about your NAPFA experience. You were a keynote speaker, no? How did it go?
I was. It went great. Yeah, I was talking about the building the firm of the future. So I talked a little bit about us and Brooklyn FI, but it was really about whether you're building, and I guess this could apply to kind of anything, but specifically wealth management and financial advisors. What like if it's just you and your vision is to build a firm of one, that's awesome, but you should run it like an enterprise firm. So you and I from day one were like, we want to be big, we want to build everything. And I was basically taking that methodology and saying, like, you can still do that. You can run a better business if you think about the exit in mind. So always thinking about the future. Even if it's just you, you still need to document every process. You still need to think about how much is my business worth. You still have to have really great books and records to know whether your business is doing good or bad. Just like a little thumbs up every quarter is kind of I would put it. Yeah, it was super fun. Met a lot of cool people. Spent more time in Minneapolis, which whatever. I have another tick in the old man column box. When you're young and you go to like a city, you like want to go to all the cool restaurants and you like do all this research. And this time I was just like, nope, this is the hotel. I don't have time. What is the closest restaurant that will always have a reservation or that I can always get in but at 6:30 and 7? And there was a steakhouse. So I went to the same steakhouse 3 nights in a row. I had the same meal, the exact same wedge salad 3 nights in a row. And I was like, wow, I've changed. I am on my way to my full form of being an old man and ordering the same thing for dinner every night at 6:30. So that was a big win for me.
You're slowly becoming a conservative.
Oh yeah, that's you in my bucket.
Same. It's like a werewolf. Well, you're golfing. You live in a retirement community. I would wager. Well, Palm Springs is gay, so it tilts back towards the blue side of things. But yeah. Like a werewolf, you have to fight it off. Becoming a conservative. Don't change anything. Yeah.
Indeed.
Marriage is between a man and a.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Speaking of not changing anything, there is a government proposal to allow rent payments to factor into your credit score. I am interested in your take on this. What do you think?
I don't know if that's segue. That's your segues. I love your segues, sister.
They're not working today, but it's okay.
This is a change. This is a change to the way the credit score would work, and I think a positive change. AJ, I think you would agree with me that there's a lot of people that can make rent and have been making rent, and they're afraid of credit cards, and they don't want to get into credit card debt because they've been told that debt is no good for them, and it's a way to slide out of or slide into a negative financial situation, but they're able to meet their obligations of rent, which obviously are like people's biggest expense, like especially in 2026 when fewer and fewer people can afford to buy a home. We allow somehow the rent, the credit agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, what's the last one? Experian, thank you. To get access to your ability to make payments, right? Like this is what we're looking for. We're looking for people that have a high consistency in meeting their obligations, and rent is an obligation, just like a credit card, student loan, mortgage, car payment, etc. So I don't know. I think it's a good idea. I don't know how in practice it's going to work because all these individual landlords would now need to collect, I guess, social security numbers, which I guess they probably already do that. It's been a second since I filled out a rent application, but
they do. I mean, they do a credit check on you when you fill out a rental application, and you put your social security number in. Well,
but
it's been a while for me too.
It does give landlords more leverage as well over.
Yeah.
This is a nefarious way to look at it. Is it gives landlords the ability to say this is going to hurt your credit score if you don't make rent. So I think that might be a subtle, nasty way to give landlords more power. But if you're already good with credit, this is a boon to you. If you're trying to cross the bridge from renter to buyer, if you're already like on the like experiencing poverty and like you're trying to dig yourself out of that hole, it might make it even harder for you.
Exactly. Like if you are already unfairly judged by the credit system, this is going to be worse, right? Because if you already, started not on third base and you're starting from zero, your ability to make rent is going to be the same as like you're going to be in credit card debt, right? You're going to miss that credit card payment and then you're going to also miss rent. Whereas if you're I don't know, you graduate college and you've been on daddy's credit card for 5 years and you have a little bit of student loans because your parents wanted you to be responsible, like, you're already fine. You already have great credit, so this will only continue to help you. And if you miss a payment, you just ask your parents to pay. So this to me is sort of like, you know who this will help? This will help actually a significant segment of Brooklyn FI clients, which are folks on work visas here from European or Asia or anywhere else in the world. They come here, they want to move here, maybe they marry someone here, they have literally no credit, they cannot get credit cards. They have to we have people making $1 million a year on secured credit cards to establish US credit. This will actually genuinely help those folks. So yay, I guess.
I was in the MX lounge here in Mexico, and the guy was walking around with platinum cards.
We're such assholes.
For Aeromexico. And I was like, yo, can I get one of these Aeromexico credit cards? It's time for me to get a Mexican credit card. And he was like, do you have credit here? And I was like, no. I was like, I have like 20 credit cards in the United States. He was like, oh, I'm so sorry. We can't extend any credit. I'm like, this is great. I love this. Yeah. So to your point, recent immigrants for sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious what, I was like, I'll just pay, can I just put a bunch of money on it and then you guys draw it down, which I guess is a prepaid card or whatever.
That's a secured credit card. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. How do you say credit card in Spanish?
Tarjeta de crédito.
Tarjeta de crédito. Crédito de seguridad. I hear the ad already.
Gracias por eso. So, yeah, so great for that. Also, I was just thinking, what about cosigners, right? How you co-signed, you signed me up as an authorized user on your card all those years ago. I wonder if we can get there's probably boyfriends,
still there.
A lot of deadbeat boyfriends trying to get some good credit from their girls on the rent payments, or people that aren't even contributing any rent that are potentially on the rental agreement or what have you that are going to be attached. Or how do you, if somebody stops paying the rent and you're now associated with that because your boyfriend gambled all the money away and now you've got a credit ding.
There's no innocent. Yeah, is there innocent spouse relief for missed rent payments on your credit? I don't know. Another thing that didn't make it into the article list, but that I DM'd to our group chat, was a realtor in San Francisco, an influencer, making a cocktail poorly in her kitchen, talking about how with these expected, we should hopefully see an Anthropic IPO later this year, the amount of money that is about to pour into the Bay Area because of this single IPO, it's going to make housing prices spike. And she's, I think rightfully so, pointing to the Meta IPO in, what was that, 2011? You can literally see, on a graph see the spike of home prices related to that IPO and the lockup to say, this happened, everyone got their millions out. What's the first thing you do as a 30-year-old who just made $10 million overnight? You go put a sick down payment on a $4 million home in Pacific Heights or whatever, one of those fancy neighborhoods in San Francisco. So to our San Francisco clients, of which we have many, let's talk getting in there before the housing prices skyrocket. Have you been to San Francisco recently? When was the last time you were there?
No, I was there maybe 16 months ago. Yeah, but there's every billboard's an AI billboard. There's a great LinkedIn post or Twitter post about somebody going to New York and talking about how different it is. And it's I was in a coffee shop and not a single laptop had Claude Code pulled up on it. No, it was so easy to talk to people and make friends and talk about things that weren't AI related. It's to your point, you talked about it on the podcast a couple of months ago, how AI is, everybody's red pilled in San Francisco, but the rest of the country is we don't care. Unless you're vibe coding stuff or it's something you have to deal with instead of something you're absolutely excited about, right?
Yeah, and if you're excited about something, it's a way to talk about something else. It's I figured out how to plan my cycling trip through France via ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, and it's you go to France and you're a cyclist. Now we have something in common and we can have a human conversation, as opposed to I was able to deploy this faster than you. So yes.
Yeah.
I'm honestly really excited to be in the city of San Francisco. I'm very excited. I love San Francisco. I spent a bunch of time there in high school and in college, and I mean it's my home state. But I've always been enamored with that city. So I'm excited to
Yeah.
hang out with you there.
Sorry,
All right.
I derailed. Yeah, we have a packed schedule for that week, which means we won't be enjoying sunsets over by the Golden Gate Bridge or what have you. But yeah, I'm excited as well to be in downtown San Francisco and not in Mountain View. No shame to Mountain View, but I've spent too much time down in the suburbs.
All right. Speaking of AI, this dude at the Wall Street Journal asked ChatGPT to manage a stock portfolio. Here's how it did. What was your take? So this guy, types in a query to ChatGPT and says, hey, I'm a 30 to 35-year-old person. I don't know why he wouldn't just put in his actual age, but whatever. My primary goals are growth. My time horizon is long. My risk tolerance is a 3 out of a 1 to 5 scale. I have $1 million to invest and it's going in a taxable account. What should I invest in? And ChatGPT comes up with this portfolio that's 50% US equities, 20% international equities, 20% fixed income, aka bonds, some alternatives, and some cash. What was your take on this guy's little experiment with the bots?
I mean, it's great at copying other things that are on the internet. So it found the right thing to copy on the internet and copy pasted it, which is chill. Like, that's fine to set that up. The hard part has never been choosing an asset allocation. It was in 1985 to choose an asset allocation because all ETFs didn't exist. You had to analyze exchange rate or expense ratios, but everything is commoditized at this point when it comes to choosing, whether it's an iShares or VTI or whatever the hell it is. The hard part is also not picking them, it's also managing them, right? And it quickly made some math errors, which I thought was quite funny. My favorite thing about this article, frankly, AJ, was that our boy Ruben Miller was quoted in it. So shout out to Ruben for catching a Wall Street Journal post. Very well done. He's a fantastic money manager. So if you need somebody to manage your money, do not use ChatGPT. Use somebody like Ruben.
Get a real advisor. I found my first issue was that this person is 35 years old and has $1 million to put in a taxable account, and its recommendation was an 80-20 portfolio. Mm-hmm. Now, that's the textbook Fidelity 401k conservative lot. We have data on 200,000 people and here's how you should do this answer. But the Brooklyn FI answer to that is very different, right? To me, that's way too conservative. 5% of your taxable portfolio in cash. It should have asked hey, do you have cash elsewhere? Why is so much of this portfolio in cash when it's your taxable investment account? That made no sense to me. I think there should have been more equities. It didn't. A profile risk of 3. This is a cheap risk tolerance questionnaire. It's how risky are you? What does risk mean? There are entire academic departments dedicated to the study of risk. It is very difficult, and in my opinion, it is not criminal, but it is inefficient. It is insufficient to ask someone to rate their risk from 1 to 5 when they don't even understand the question that you're. That's why we stopped doing those risk tolerance questionnaires. It's you have a couple, you have a man and a woman. You say, "Sir, how risky are you?" And he goes, 4. And "Ma'am, how risky are you?" 2. Okay, great. Let's put you in a 90-10 portfolio. Let's put you in a 50-50 portfolio. And now you have just made this poor woman's portfolio unlikely to ever return as much as her husband's. I hate risk tolerance questionnaires. I think they're evil and sexist.
They're tough. They're sexist?
Yes, they are sexist because you ask someone the question, how risky are you? And statistically, men are oh, I'm more risky. And women are, when you use that word without any context, which in this article, there was no context given, just define your level of risk. Women are more likely statistically to say, I am not as risky. I am not as risky as that.
I got you. And that would reduce their returns because they're going to be overexposed to less. I mean, speaking of less exposed to certain things that they potentially shouldn't be, this person did say they were a 3 out of 5. And this, as we all know, models
and
are
they'll put alternatives in it?
And they're very sycophantic as well. So no, you're good. He's just he comes back and he's by the way, should I do some leveraged ETFs? And it's I don't know. Sure. Here are 3 leveraged ETFs. So it's just going to do whatever you ask it to do eventually, and people are going to ask questions about things that they're curious about, so eventually it's going to buckle. And you need to be very aware of that, By the way, he later on says that I really should have asked it to use thinking mode instead of auto mode, which goes from high school level thinking to PhD level thinking. It's like, yeah, dog, like there's so many opportunities to make small mistakes. And yeah, like it also doesn't manage the portfolio. Like you need to go and buy, I've already said it, but like, yes, it is a thinking partner. That's great. But what we do as advisors is implementation and maintenance, which is 90% of the hard part, right? By the way, we have another question later. I don't know if we're going to have time to get to it, where we get AI to...
I think we should. I think we should get to it. I think we have a few minutes, and it's very related. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Yes. And also the AI piece of it is like, oh, and now now AI can manage your portfolio for you. Yes, except what AI cannot do is when you freak out, the AI cannot say to you, oh, you seem concerned about the war in the Middle East. Let's talk about it. The AI will say, you're right. There's a war in the Middle East. We should reduce your risk and your exposure to international equities. I'm going to go ahead and make that trade. And a human would be like, no. We need to have a conversation about it. I need to understand your personal fears and why you're reacting this way. And let's have a conversation. And if the outcome is you do want to reduce your exposure, fine. What if we waited a week for this to pass and for the market to recover from its 3-hour dip or whatever, whatever kind of volatility we're experiencing? So I think patience and human connection are still very important in managing portfolios. Speaking from literally personal experience, like when things get rocky, we freak out. And having someone who you literally trust, who can look you in the eye and say, do you trust me? Let's ride this out for another week and then let's revisit, right? It's that promise of like, let's keep having those conversations. I want to keep checking in with you so I know what your baseline is. The bots don't know what your baseline is. They're just looking at what the chat is now. And if you're freaked out, it's going to respond to that and it's going to give you exactly what you ask it. Speaking of which, this is a better segue. So there's a Reddit question. Is there an advantage to multiple brokerages or should I consolidate? This person has a 401k at one firm and then they've got their taxable brokerage account at Morgan Stanley. And they're asking, should I consolidate them? What are the advantages and disadvantages of having my money in 2 different brokerage accounts managed by 2 different advisors? You had an interesting take on this. Tell me how you wanted to answer this question. Oh
yeah, well, it is fun. We're talking about AI very frequently on the podcast and in our lives. And Claude's Anthropic has been releasing sequentially different types of plugins that are specifically designed for certain types of industries. So legal came out yesterday, which was very interesting. When they release these plugins, they call them like category killers. And I have to agree, frankly, that they are very, very good at the things that you give them. They did a finance drop. By the way, there's a person at Anthropic that is in charge of the relationship with the finance community. If you go on LinkedIn, he's like the finance Claude plugin person. And I think he was at Morgan or a brokerage, of course, because that's where big companies always go to those brokerage houses, unfortunately, instead of to like RIAs. But anyway, so I asked it, there's an investment or there's a wealth management plugin now, and all it does is answer wealth management questions. So I plugged it in and it gave a good answer, frankly, AJ. Like it's pretty good. Like the question is essentially, I have 2 advisors. I have 2 different brokerage accounts. Like what are the good things and the bad things around that? The first thing it highlights is the fiduciary status and the fee structure of Morgan Stanley is murky and should be reviewed. No shit. The asset location is a big coordination problem. So it says that we need to make sure that we put the right assets and the right types of accounts. And if you've got a taxable at one advisor and a non-taxable or a tax deferred at another advisor, you're inevitably going to goof that. Wash sales and tax loss harvesting are going to be a problem. Great catch. That's like a deep tax thing. Overlap and concentration. Maybe you're going to have too many U.S. equities because they're both overly concentrated in U.S. equities, thinking the other one is going to do international. Where the 2 advisor structure work is when one is clearly the quarterback and the other is a specialist. I might agree with that. I don't know how you feel about that. And then it gives a practical read. Yeah. So maybe a sub-advisor that handles munis.
Something like that. Yeah. Like we have clients who, their families have deep history in, I don't know, Texas oil and gas. Like our investment team does not have deep expertise in oil and gas. So they might say, hey, look, it's really important to my family that I carry on this legacy and I want to put 10% of my portfolio in this. I'm going to have this sub manager who's going to do that. Like, fine. Even though I don't like that, it's okay. like go do that because they're the right person for that. But yes, having your 401k, your basic 401k and your basic core portfolio in a equity bond mix at two different places seems like an unnecessary complication, frankly. You know, like, remember back in the day when, you know, FDIC insurance, right? If you have more than $250,000 in a bank, it is technically not insured, right? So when you and I were baby financial planners and a client would come with a bunch of cash and we would say, uh-oh, you have $300,000 in this in your Chase account, we should move 50,000 of it to another bank so we can be sure to be covered by FDIC insurance. Now, with about a decade of experience under our belts, we realize that that's a pretty silly thing to do, unless you're at Joe Schmo's corner store bank, because the likelihood of JP Morgan failing and not being able to pay you back and insure your deposits is extremely unlikely. So this sort of like, oh, I'm going to hedge against Morgan Stanley failing by also having Fidelity, I think is a very silly and small-minded way to think about it, which is what a lot of the Redditor responders said. Like,
yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think for our financial advisor listeners, I think it is interesting that it mentions that you don't really need a Morgan Stanley relationship unless you need, and our own clients that when they do leave, and sometimes they do leave to go to a wirehouse because they have been lured in for lending, banking, or concentrated stock needs, which I find funny that concentrated stock would be a reason to go to a wirehouse. So yeah, I think it's an interesting answer. I think these tools are getting better at their role, which is thought partner, and we need to lean into being. We want advisors with good thought partners, right? Doctors with good thought partners, even plumbers with good thought partners, which I have learned the hard way recently during my renovations. But yeah, I don't know. AJ, you want to? What? Anything else before we wrap?
I'm gonna wrap.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, I think we could wrap. I think we've talked about the markets. We talked about AI. I don't know. We have a ton of travel coming up, so I think we may take a week off next week just because we can't get it together, and we want to hang out with our team and not sit in a dark cabin with shitty Wi-Fi and record a bad podcast. So thanks so much for listening. You can email us your financial problems at liquidityevent@brooklynfi.com. And finally, Stans can leave us a review if they want to be weird about it. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.
Bye.